We all know the verdict. A powerful legal dynasty, a brutal double murder, a courtroom that captivated the country. And like millions of people, we thought we understood the story. But the truth is, some cases don't end when the verdict is read. Sometimes that's when the real questions begin. The further we get from the trial of Alex Murdaugh, the more complicated this story becomes. Because trials answer legal questions, they don't always answer the human ones. This is the unspoken truth behind the story of Alex Murdaugh. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
What if the most important question in the Alex Murdaugh story isn't whether he committed the murders? What if the real question is, how did he manage to live multiple lives at the same time? Because years after the murders of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, people are still obsessed with this case.
That's true.
Not because of what happened, because we know what happened. I think it's because of what was revealed.
Yes. Initially, we saw this powerful family. We saw a respectable attorney, a devoted husband, father, family man, a community around him that trusted him, and then a series of revelations that came about that forced these people to ask, was any of it real?
Yeah, because you know he's really good at telling lies. And today, we're going to go into that. This is a very first episode of a limited series that we're putting out with Unspoken Truths Media, not to relitigate the story of Alex Murdaugh. I know everyone's seen it. I've lived it.
Yes.
Today marks the very first episode of what we're going to call The Hidden Life of Alex Murdaugh. Because let's be honest, we've already made a decision, most of us, whether we think he did it or didn't do it. Right? So instead, what we want to do is we want to explore the relationships, the people, the hidden truths behind what was really going on in the Murdaugh family and see what we can gather out of it. Because this case became one of the most captivating cases of our time. Most true crime stories, as we know, after the verdict, we rush, get the verdict out, and then it just sort of stalls from there, right?
Right.
That's how it usually goes. But this case didn't. And in fact, as many of you know now, it just got more complicated. Alex Murdaugh was convicted of murdering Maggie and Paul in 2023. We know that. But in 2026, this year, the South Carolina Supreme Court overturned those convictions. And, we've posted about this before, but basically, because of the things that Becky Hill did, now his murder conviction is null and void. So they want to, you either prosecute again or you don't get those charges. So we know that the state intends to prosecute him again. But let's be clear that this ruling, the overturning of the conviction, does not prove that he's innocent. It just resets the playing field again. It basically is saying the process was compromised.
Yeah, and that's where this story becomes bigger. It's bigger than a murder case because now we're left with two uncomfortable realities. There's many people who still believe that Alex Murdaugh killed his wife and son, and he was convicted of it, right? Right. And yet the justice system determined the first verdict could not stand. So how do we hold both truths at the same time? I'm Autumn Cross, and this is
Beth Justice here. Welcome back. We haven't seen you guys in a bit. Actually, we're about to do a live stream after this, so you're probably now already have seen the stream because we're going to release these in different orders. But we're going to talk about CrimeCon, and that's where we were. CrimeCon was an incredible experience, right?
Very, very incredible. We met so many wonderful people and got to meet up and collaborate. And we heard a lot of stories from different victims. And we were very emotionally impacted.
Tattoos.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's covered up today.
You can't really see it. I have to do my arm they're for us. We wanted to be able to see them ourselves. So we put them in a spot that we could see.
Or that you could throw your arm out and show somebody, but I can't see that today.
But yeah, what happened at CrimeCon was we got to hear from Blanca, who was the housekeeper of Murdaugh, and she really got us re-fired up. We just wanted to come right at you and start this Murdaugh series because there is so much to unpack, so many things that were missed, and we can't wait to share all of them with you.
Yes, and she's such a kind person that needs all kinds of support, good thoughts, and prayers in the coming retrial. So be thinking about her. As we started researching this series, we kept coming back to one question. How much of someone's life can be a performance before the people that are closest to them, like Blanco or his family or close friends, they start realizing that they're watching a character, not who he really is. So, because Alex Murdaugh wasn't just accused of murder, we know that he was convicted on a lot of financial crimes. I mean, even if this retrial, if he's not found guilty, he's still going to spend the rest of his life, or
Well,
the
what could be,
majority,
the majority of his life.
let's just put it that way, of his life in prison for the financial crimes. But he admitted to an way out of hand, out of control, we'll say that, opioid addiction.
Yep.
He admitted to stealing from his clients, who were a lot of them in dire need of financial support.
The Satterfields.
Yes.
It breaks my heart because those were people close to him.
Yeah. He'd known them their whole lives.
So if he could be that ruthless with someone he knew his whole life.
He admitted to years of deception, even inside of his own law firm, with his family that he worked with. So people who trusted him, let's say that, discovered that there were entire parts of his life that they never knew existed. And that raises a question many of us have faced on a smaller scale. How well do we really know the people that we trust?
Yeah. I mean, I really feel that way because especially with a housekeeper or with someone who works for you, you let them into your house. You trust them to be on like what they are on the surface in real, like in their life.
Right. Your home is your safe space. And that's high trust to have somebody in your home cleaning it. I'll say that.
And I think that's also what made the case feel so memorable and fascinating was like he was doing all this admittedly for a long time. Like they were seeing the addiction, the pills, the shadiness, and then everyone was still supporting him. People still are supporting him.
Still, yeah. Yeah. Before we go any further, though, let's make sure we're all standing in the same place. So, because Alex Murdaugh's story is so sprawling, and there are murders, like we said, financial crimes, like we said, there was also a boat crash, a huge family dynasty that goes back a century.
Yeah.
A retrial that's coming up, and enough twists and turns to feel multiple documentaries.
That we've all binged, let's be honest. So most of you probably know the story, but there may be people who are just following us that don't know the ins and outs. So we're going to recap them quickly and get the facts out first.
Yeah. And Beth is going to do that.
I will try my best. So the Murdaugh family is a legal dynasty in South Carolina's Low Country. They're probably one of the most influential families in that region. Everyone knew their name, right? So we got Alex Murdaugh. He's following in his father's footsteps as to be a solicitor. He is in the family law firm, building a successful legal career. He marries Maggie. They have 2 kids, Paul and Buster. Behind the scenes, Alex starts stealing money from his clients. He's taking money from colleagues, people who trust him, people who depend on him, people he's like, when you get into an accident and there's a wreck, he's the guy you go to. What is the guy we see on all the billboards?
There's a lot of them.
Oh, there is a lot. I'm thinking like Morgan and Morgan.
Morgan, yeah.
But anyway, this was in this little town, that was Alex Murdaugh. So all this deception is happening behind the scenes. No, there's no public scrutiny. Nothing's going on. In 2018 is when the first major milestone happens. Their longtime housekeeper, who was like a second mother to Paul, she dies at the Murdaugh home. And allegedly it was because they said that dogs tripped her on the stairs, but they basically deemed it was natural causes. I mean, it was an accident. So yeah, Alex sues his homeowner's insurance policy to get all this money, millions of dollars, that, mind you, never reaches Gloria's family. The key about Gloria is it's the very first glimpse into like the crack of what was going on.
Right.
He
was juggling so many balls and keeping up this facade and this lifestyle and this appearance, and somewhere the balls start to drop, and that's the first ball that dropped.
The next ball was more like a
Bomb,
let's say, because that was in 2019, a year later, and it's the boat crash. And you could probably summarize, but basically, Mallory Beach, who was 19, they get in a wreck. Paul's wasted. He's Timmy. That's what I call him. Is that weird?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever see that from South Park? He's like, I'm Timmy. His hands get all like sprawled out.
Yeah, he was a character when he was intoxicated, but there was a group of them on the boat, and they had all been drinking heavily.
Yeah. And so they crashed into Archer Bridge. Mallory's missing for, I think, 7 days total, and the rest just get out with minor, some kind of major, but just injuries. Paul is fine. He's just drunk as a skunk, and he goes to the hospital, and that was his like core group of friends, and that collapses with this. Later, a week later, they find Mallory's body, and I would say that is the bomb, because after this, everything goes downhill. It seems very quickly.
And
right?
Yes, and something that I don't know if you were going to mention this, but every time I think of the boat crash, I think of this tells you how much power this family had in the community. They would not let Mallory's family go down to the crash site and see, their daughter was missing. They wouldn't let them pass the police tape. But the Murdaughs came up and they went right past, even Maggie.
Yeah. I mean, not only did they go past, they took the boat.
Yeah.
They were able to take crime scene evidence directly from the crime scene.
And her family couldn't even be more involved or get close to try to figure out and find that. I could not imagine my child.
No police officer called them.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah.
Ever.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's like, what?
And yeah, and there was a police body cam footage that was it Anthony's mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And she was like, I'm not going to be the one to call them. And then they still never called them. It's so sad.
It's so wrong. But it goes to show the level. And the whole tampering with crime scene, we're going to get back to that because that seems to be a reoccurring thing in this family because they have the power, like you said. So lawsuits connected to the crash start happening. Finally, Paul's charged. He is arraigned. Again, special treatment. They never put him in handcuffs. They take his mugshot with his suit on, which never happens. I don't know if you know that, but that never happened. Yeah. And he was let go on a $50,000 bond, and he walked out. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, how many instances do we see people with less brutal charges that they don't leave? And they definitely are in cuffs and a jumpsuit.
Right.
Right. So anyway, that was going to go to trial, but they didn't make it to the trial because on June 7th, 2021 is when Maggie and Paul Murdaugh are shot and killed near the dog kennels on the Moselle property in South Carolina. Alec calls 911, and initially he really comes off. I mean, he really did sound like a grieving husband.
Yeah, he did.
They hurt me real badly. I mean, I'm sorry. I always do Alex Murdaugh impressions. I can't stop
I think the funniest thing is I have an extreme Southern accent, but it's the funniest thing for me to hear. Well, it's cute, not funny, haha, but it's cute to hear her do it. Bo. My wife and kids have been shot badly.
That's so bad. This is not funny.
We're not laughing at the situation. We're laughing at the interpretation.
Honestly, I think I have to sometimes make these jokes just to be able to get through things. Because when you really think about
it's heavy.
It's just so heavy. And the question is why I'm being exact. That's what he sounded like. And the question is always was that genuine emotion?
Or acting like he was doing in other areas of his life.
And what we're going to get into in this podcast and in the subsequent series is I think it's both. I really think it's both. I think there's a part of you that can be truly devastated that in your mind you justify you had to do these things, but you still grieve at the fact of what you've done,
Well, how many people do we know or have we known, or there's documented, evidence of this, that are on drugs? He was on opioids. We knew that he was abusing opioids. Alcohol, that was very prominent, obviously, in this family. How often do we see that change a person's personality, change their ethical standards, their morals. I mean, you could get to a point where you're like, who cares? It doesn't matter. I'm going to protect my dynasty, my family. I'm going to keep up this facade. And why not just kill them to cover up all the things that I was doing and my family was doing during the boat crash? We don't know. I'm just being hypothetical here. But
Yeah.
we do know that there was a level of power that they were trying to protect.
Right after all this happens, police do start questioning him. They're asking about Alex's timeline. They're asking about his relationship with Maggie and Paul. And then Alec is throwing out all kinds of excuses. He's saying there was the boat crash. He even throws out this really wild excuse about someone who worked on his property being involved with some kind of gang. Like, he's just throwing everything out to see if some
deflect.
sticks. To deflect,
Yep.
yeah. And you don't know, like, is he actually trying to help the police figure this out? Or is he just deflecting from what he knows he did? So anyway, during the murder investigation, authorities recover the cell phone video recorded by Paul shortly before the murders. And that is the smoking gun. Was that kennel video.
Okay.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Hey, Bubba.
That's a guinea.
This is a chicken.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
From day one, Alex said he was taking a nap, then he went to his mom's house to check on her. And that was his story until trial, which was pretty shocking. We'll have to play that part because it was really good.
Mr. Murdaugh, is that you? On the kennel video at 8:44 p.m. on June 7th, the night Maggie and Paul were murdered.
It is.
Were you in fact at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. on the night Maggie and Paul were murdered?
I was.
Did you lie to Sled Agent Owen and Deputy Laura Rutland on the night of June 7th and told them that you stayed at the house after dinner?
I did lie to them.
Did you lie to Agent Owen and Agent Croft on the follow-up interview on June 10th that the last time you saw Maggie and Paul was at dinner?
I did lie to them.
And in the interview of August 11th, did you tell Agent Owen and Agent Croft, did you lie to them by telling them that you were not down at the kennels on that night?
Yes.
Alec, why did you lie to Agent Owen, Agent Croft, and Deputy Rutland about the last time you saw Maggie and Paul?
As my addiction evolved over time, I would get in these situations or circumstances where I would get paranoid thinking. It could be anything that triggered it. It might be a look somebody gave me. It might be a reaction somebody had to something I did. It might be a policeman following me in a car. That night, June 7th, after finding Mags and Paul, don't talk to anybody without Danny with you. All my partners were just repeatedly telling me that. I had a deputy sheriff taking gunshot tests from my hands. I'm sitting in a police car with David Owen asking me about my relationship with my wife and my son. And all those things coupled together after finding them, coupled with my distrust for Sled, caused me to have paranoid thoughts. Normally, when these paranoid thoughts would hit me, I could take a deep breath real quick and just think about it, reason my way through it, and just get past it really quickly. On June the 7th, I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't think I was capable of reason. And I lied about being down there.
All this is happening right The police are doing their investigation, and what they're uncovering is just unfounded. Like millions of dollars stolen, pills, drug dealers, affairs pop up. There's just a lot of skeletons in that family's closet. So anyway, when they go to trial, we're gonna fast pace through this so we can get into the good stuff. Prosecutors argue that the mounting financial pressure and that the collapse of Alex's hidden life were enough to provide a motive for murder. Alex still claims he's innocent. His defense argues that the investigation was flawed, that the state failed to prove anything but circumstantial evidence, and they did not prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury convicts, and I think it was less than an hour. It was really fast. Maybe it was 2 hours. It was a short deliberation. So we think the story ends there. I mean, we still kind of follow him at court TV. We still kind of posted like
Well, for the
stories.
Becky Hill stuff.
Yeah,
And you
well,
mentioned her name earlier. She was the court reporter.
right. Yeah.
During his trial.
She was the PIO,
PIO.
or the clerk of court.
Clerk of court.
Clerk of court.
Sorry, not court reporter. Clerk of court.
They all have lots of names, but she
Blah,
was
blah,
the lady behind the scenes of the Murdaugh trial.
Mhm.
The one who's supposed to be professional and not get involved and tamper with the jury. Not
Right.
write a book about what the trial was
Yeah.
that she plagiarized. So that brings us to where we thought the story ended. But the bomb drops in 2026, which was a couple months ago, and they overturn the conviction. So now we're back, all the way back to 2023. I flashback 3 years and we're going to do it all over again.
Yay. Poor family.
Poor family,
Poor Blanca. Poor
Creighton Waters.
That's a lot.
I don't know. His defense is probably very happy, so I wouldn't say poor
Yeah.
Pooter. Poor Pooter.
But I mean, just the victims and the people that are probably still grieving and mourning for the victims.
Yeah.
That's got to be a lot to dig back up and go through all over again.
Yeah, because this was a media circus. It was a frenzy outside the courthouse. We had people there. We had cameras in the courtroom that were recording the trial. It was just madhouse. And that's a little town to have that many people in there. I remember how hard it was to just find places for everybody to stay.
Yeah.
And now this town has to go through it. So I wouldn't doubt that they'll move it. But you're not going to find an impartial jury, I don't believe.
Not at this point.
But we're going to get into that more later.
Yes. So while the version that we've been discussing, while the version of this story was told in headlines, court filings, documentaries, different perspectives, it's not the story that we're here to tell. So we just explained that to you pretty much in a nutshell in about 5 to 10 minutes.
It's supposed to be 5.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 5. The past 7, 8 years. But because every time we dug deeper into this, we found ourselves becoming less interested in Alex Murdaugh and more interested in the people around him. Every time we dug deeper into Alex Murdaugh, we found ourselves running into the same problem. Alex wasn't the only person living inside the story. There were employees, coworkers, friends, family members, supporters even, people who saw pieces of his life from completely different angles. And years later, many of them are still helping us understand parts of this case that weren't fully explored during the first trial.
But the deeper question isn't simply who was Alex Murdaugh. The deeper question is, how did different people experience completely different versions of the same man and not know it?
Yeah. He was highly manipulative, that's for sure.
And did some of them know it and not feel that they could do anything about it?
Chose to turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is sometimes just as bad as helping someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with the people who were never supposed to become important in this story. The observers, the everyday people that are just, we would say, the lay people.
The lay people.
But they ended up becoming very important. I'm talking about people like Blanca Turbiade Simpson. She was the housekeeper. We got Shelley Smith, who was the housekeeper, caretaker for Alex's mother. There's people named like C.B. Rowe, which a lot of people don't even remember his name. But this was someone connected to the inner circle working for the Murdaughs. People that were there every day doing their jobs as this family moved in and out between them. Because they did have a hunting farm. They had a hunting property. They had a lot of vegetation upkeep on the land. So they had a lot of people helping them do these things. And these weren't legal experts, right? They were not investigators. They were not any media personalities. These were just everyday people who happened to get involved in the true crime case of a lifetime.
Yeah, Blanca cleaned the house. Shelley cared for, like you said, Alex's mother. And C.B. Rowe worked at Moselle. Each of them saw different versions of the family, though. And years later, some of the observations still generate discussion. When we met Blanca at CrimeCon, she wasn't talking about legal theory. She was talking about routines, objects, conversations, part of their everyday life, the way she felt, the things that feel insignificant until they don't.
I think the biggest thing that I was most shocked about, because I know this case inside and out. I mean, when we were doing the trial, I was up every night watching testimony that I missed while I was working covering the trial, just to get every single thing. And this thing I didn't ever catch was a beach towel. This is a beach towel. And it was shown in the first responder footage. And at CrimeCon, Blanca showed, replayed the video. And she said that beach towel was an Edisto towel. And for those who don't know it that closely, Edisto is where their beach property was. And Blanca was doing their laundry. So she said there were specific towels for when they would go to the beach or go to the beach house and take, and they were always laundered and ready to go. And her question was, why is that Edisto towel in his truck if he was going to go check on his mom? What did he need it for? It's a pretty key little piece of evidence. Now, I'm not saying the towel changes the outcome of the case. I'm not saying that it's the smoking gun by any means, but it illustrates something I think very important, is that the most interesting parts of the story didn't come out in courtroom exhibits. A lot of it is still living within some of those people connected to the case. Memories, experiences that hold the key to really understanding who Alex Murdaugh really was.
Yeah. And motive and understanding all the things. Like, that's with every case, though. There's routines that you just doesn't happen to come across in investigations. It's inside people's minds, and it could be minute details.
Yeah.
That they may not think that's very important, but turns out that it really is. It adds an important piece to the puzzle in the end. And they weren't trying to solve murders. That's what struck us with these people that we're talking about. They weren't looking for mystery. They were simply just living their lives. And suddenly, years later, they find themselves in this media turmoil, looking back, realizing ordinary moments, like we said, might have meant more than they thought and that they understood at the time. Because hindsight has a way of turning background details into clues.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes these observers just so fascinating. Not because they solve this mystery, not because they hold information that no one has. It's because they remind us that everyday life often contains clues long before a mystery exists.
Then there are the people who stayed after everything went down. And honestly, these may be the most complicated, emotionally complicated group in the entire story. People like Chris Wilson, his best friend, Dale Davis, John Marvin Murdaugh, his brother, Randy Murdaugh, his other brother, and Buster Murdaugh, his son, Bus.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking about Bus. I got to ask Blanca one question. I could ask her a couple of questions, but one I had asked her was that real? Because it sounded at the trial like he almost made that up. Like, I call him Mag, Bus, Paw. Like they came out of nowhere. But she said they were indeed real nicknames, so.
And they called everybody Bo.
Bo.
Now it's bruh. Ask my kid. Bruh. I'm even a bruh. I was like, no.
You go,
honey.
Mama, Mom, bruh.
Bruh. No, honey. Carried you for 9 months. I'm not your bruh.
But yeah, I think these are really interesting people.
Yeah.
Because from an outside perspective, I'm like, how are these people still supporting this man?
Yeah.
I mean, take the murders out of it. How are you still supporting a guy who could rob all your friends,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up some video.
Chris Wilson, as you can see, was one of Alex closest friends and ultimately became one of his victims too of financial deception.
I don't remember exactly how it ended, Mr. Waters. I was so mad. I mean, I'd loved the guy for so long. And I probably still loved him a little bit, but I was so mad. And I don't remember how it ended. I left. I mean, I asked him, how did I not know these things or see these things, and we talked. He was concerned about me getting my $192,000 back. Seemed concerned. I told him I wasn't worried about that. At that point, I wanted to make sure there wasn't something else.
Murdaugh's getting choked up just with him on the stand.
Yeah.
Because think about it. He didn't get to talk to these guys after all the shit went down.
Yeah.
He just was living his life, and then
Yeah.
this all exploded. So he was still getting to manipulate them up until he couldn't.
But like you can see, Chris, he's not testifying out of anger, even after being deceived by Alec. And it's more heartbreak.
Then there's John Marvin.
I walked over to the feed room, and y'all have heard the descriptions. Y'all saw it. I've never seen pictures, and I've told them before coming to this court that I was not going to see pictures. But y'all can imagine what I experienced. It had not been cleaned up. I saw blood. I saw brains. I saw pieces of skull. And when I say brains, it could just be tissue. I don't know what I was seeing. It was terrible. And for some reason, I thought it was something that I needed to do for Paul to clean it up. I felt like it was the right thing to do. I felt like I owed him, and I started cleaning.
Despite everything, he is still standing behind his brother. And he's openly admitted, I know he cheated people, but he doesn't, he doesn't hold him accountable for the murders. He doesn't believe that's the truth. So why is he still there behind him supporting it? Even when he almost drug their family name, or has drugged their name.
Yeah.
Did he say drug it?
Mud.
Drug that name through the mud.
Drug it.
When are we going to learn how to stop doing that? We just keep doing it.
I like it.
And then I guess Buster, I'll have to talk about Bus because it's his family name. He is a Murdaugh, and he lost his mother and his brother and his father. Yeah. He's lost his whole...
His grandfather passed.
His grandmother.
He's lost a lot of people in the past few years.
He is married, and whether it's happily or not, I have no idea. But at least he is trying to live somewhat of a normal life as much as he can.
What fascinated me wasn't whether these people offended Alec, was how differently that they experienced him. For some, he was afraid of a brother, a father, a worker, like we said, a business partner, a business partner, a mentor. And every one of those relationships, like we said, tell a different story. And they could be some fact, or not saying, like you said, that they were hiding anything or any crime, but something that they might think that is relevant could be a big key to the case. And what is also interesting about these relationships is how some of them survived even when that truth was shattered. When you think about you in your life, how often do your relationships survive after somebody has lost trust in you, or you lost trust in them, whatever the situation? I mean, think about it. Think about how hard that is.
Yeah.
And all these people, well, a lot of them experience that with Alec.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about trust, and I've had friendships dissolve over much less.
Yeah. Right.
And it makes you kind of think about that. Why? What was the motivation for some of these people?
Right.
Was it because of his influence, his power, his likability? What made them
Support him
and continue?
even after he betrayed them.
I guess you could probably tell by now. There's this pattern of power, influence coming out of this. I like to call it the Murdaugh machine,
Yeah.
because it was this whole engine of all of them. And it wasn't about the fact that they had access to their family. It wasn't just because of their influence. I think it was really all of it together. And it came in the trial out. It came out in the trial like one man's deception. But really, if you think about it, was it one man's issues or was it the whole system that allowed it? Because all the people that we're talking about played a part into why this continued to happen.
Yeah. And the boat crash, the hospital, the murders, Gloria Satterfield and her settlement, they all raised these questions.
Yeah. I mean, we all saw the red flags. Do you remember the very first, doc you watched on TV about this case? 'Cause I remember the first time I saw one. It was like one of those limited series, and every episode we kept going, no, no,
How do these people?
like there's red flags for days. Like why? But again, it goes to show how easy it is to not see something when it's happening slowly over time. Don't you think?
And when you have that kind of power and protection behind you and around you.
Yeah. And one example of this, I think, that I alluded to earlier in this episode, was the footage that was taken by a YouTuber right around after the murders. It was a few days in. The investigation had already been going, and there was a shot, and it looked like John Marvin carrying some weapons out of the
It was a drone shot.
out of the house. Yeah, it was really high up. Now, again, I am not suggesting. I want people to know I'm not suggesting that John Marvin hid the murder weapons. Obviously, police did investigate the property. You might have saw the video in the body cam when they went. Day one, they went into the gun area and they looked at all the weapons, and that's when they determined: A, they had a shit ton of guns, and B, none of these guns matched the murder scene of the murder weapons. But the idea of John Marvin there days after this happened, it's shocking, because why would he have access to those guns? Why would he, in what world would he be allowed to remove weapons
From a crime scene.
from a crime scene?
An active crime scene.
Like 3 days old crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, remember they invited people back in the house, and we heard, Blanca talk about how she had to go right away the next day and get the house ready to receive family. I'm just, is it because you think that the estate was so spoiled and the murders happened further from the main house? Perhaps that's why they were allowed to go back in the main house, but they couldn't go out by the kennels. I mean, I really don't know. I'd love to ask law enforcement from that case that question. But I think what it really shows us is that this family has so much power.
That bigger conversation of how power operates.
And not for this dramatic corruption, not like this really wrongdoing, planned corruption, but really just through relationships and trust and small town politics.
Yes.
Sometimes
the most powerful systems too aren't built on corruption. They're built on familiarity. And people assume someone is trustworthy just they've always been trustworthy.
Yeah. People just assuming that the rules are being followed because they've always been followed this way. Or this is all they've known, so they think that it's not wrong. Nothing's happening. Until one day all those assumptions get truly tested.
Well, I mean, also, this was probably really, really huge for that community. I mean, it was probably shocking,
Skeletons, man.
Mm-hmm. They were just trying to do the right thing at the right time, I'm sure, follow the law. And, I mean, how often do you have something that caliber happen
Right?
in rural
You take one little piece of the story on its
Carolina?
own and you're like, this is huge for this kind of community. You take all of it.
Mightily.
When the Murdaugh trial was happening, I was completely immersed in that story. And I don't mean I was just casually following the headlines. I mean, at Court TV, we lived that case. We breathed that case. We planned for it. We prepared coverage, production, schedules, hours of testimony, debated the evidence, did backgrounders. We followed every twist as they happened. And like a lot of people, I really thought I understood the story. So by the time the verdict came down, it felt like we were months inside it, which we were, because the trial itself was very long. And I wasn't shocked by the outcome at all. But then something strange happened, because right after the trial, I kept staying interested. Like, I didn't lose the obsession. It only got bigger for me, not less. Because after our cameras left Colleton County, the verdict was read, but then there was a whole new conversation that was starting everywhere. That's when they started coming out with books, documentaries, interviews with family, interviews with jurors, and people revisiting evidence that I knew. And I think that, like, I thought I would have already known it all, but I just got more and more and more immersed, is what I'm trying to say. And I found myself drawn to that part of the story, the people behind why the outcome came. Because I think trials themselves, they answer legal questions. But the story, they don't always answer the human.
I think that's, to me, what makes this story in case fascinating all these years later. Most people think a verdict closes the story, that the chapter's done. That's the last part of the book. That once the jury reaches that decision, the mystery is over. That's not always the case, okay? Sometimes a verdict actually creates more questions or new questions. Not necessarily about guilt or innocence, but about the people and about relationships and about some of the details, like we said earlier, that may seem insignificant at the time, but you start looking.
Yeah, when you start diving down the Reddit boards
Yeah, right.
and you dig through the conversations that are going on. Now, I'll be honest, sometimes those crazy conspiracy theories pop out, and you're like, come on, seriously?
Right.
But then again, we're going to talk about Koberger is another one where what you thought you knew may not be exactly what happened.
Yeah. That's where people like Rogan Gibson also are. It may seem insignificant, but he's part of the story. Most people know him because of the kennel video. And it was the most, like you said, the smoking gun. It was one of the most discussed pieces of evidence in this case. And I want to say modern true crime.
Right.
But what fascinates me isn't just the video itself, it's how ordinary the moment was. And
how ordinary the video really was.
Yes. It wasn't somebody trying to document the crime or catch somebody doing something wrong. Wasn't an investigator collecting evidence. Was just a friend calling a friend about a dog. That's it.
Yeah, checking on his dog. And there are things that we learned after the trial that have come out of that. One big thing that Blanca talks about in her book, I'm going to go ahead and show her book. This is called Within the Walls of Murdaugh. But one thing she talked about was water running in the background of that kennel video. Something we would never pick up on, but something that meant something to her because of how they did work there. When would the water be on? Who would turn on the water? Why would that be running at that time, that late at night? It just makes you think about things that all are pieces of the puzzle put together. But we know that investigators didn't have a chance to connect some of these dots. We know that because we're learning things now, long after.
But everybody, I think, that likes true crime likes stories. And I think that's what fascinates us about Bonka's book and about all these people is we want to know the whole story. We want to come to the conclusion ourselves. And we want to understand why this crime happened. How can we help to fix it? Or try to feel things. That's why we listen to stories. That's why we want things.
Yeah, take away something that's practical out of the story. Because it's like way bigger than just covering murder. It's understanding why this could happen to anybody, really. It doesn't seem like it could. Think about how ordinary this life felt with his family. So it didn't.
As we go forward with this series, we're going to spend a lot less time focusing on the courtroom headlines, a lot more time focusing on the people who lived inside the story. Not back to the evidence, back to the people. The witnesses, the employees, his friends, family members, and the people who notice things, overlook things, and who lost things, and the people who are still trying to make sense like we are of what happened.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Blanca Turbiati Simpson. We're talking about Chris Wilson, Dale Davis, John Marvin, Buster, Shelley, critics, supporters. He's still got a lot of supporters. People that think he's innocent. People who think maybe he was guilty, but there were two people involved. People who think there are two people involved, but they're not Alex Murdaugh. And people whose names that most viewers haven't heard of so frequently, because they tell just as much of the story as others do.
The crime may be the headline, but the human story is everything under. That's what we're going to do next. That's where we're headed to. And that's it for today's episode. We'll continue releasing our regular episodes in between. We're going to be doing some lives as well. Keep an eye out for the next chapter in our Murdaugh series as we dig deeper into the people, the relationships, and the questions that still surround this case.
Thanks for listening, for liking, for subscribing, and following us through this journey. We really appreciate it. Until next week.
Because the truth matters. And so does how we treat each other. Stay kind. Stay curious. Stay safe. Until next time.